Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Alright, first question. This is one of my favorite topics to laugh about in person. Why is it that so many people start feeling like they're creaking and crackling once they turn 30 plus? Oh my god, 30. They'll start complaining about energy pains and joint issues. Do you think it's mostly psychological and mindset related, or actual rapid deterioration of the body? Well, my opinion on that, as a guy who squats over 600 pounds at age 44, I think it's mindset. And I'm not saying physiology doesn't matter, but what happens is that when people turn 30 plus, who have lived complete garbage lifestyles, they have not trained correctly. And I say train correctly because if people do stupid stuff that beats them up, they're not training intelligently, that can contribute to injuries. They have eaten poorly, all these other things, their body is getting run down and hurting. In fact, you'll start seeing those things happen at age 25. Okay? But here's what I would say, even with a lot of the training related stuff, if they trained poorly, those same people statistically are still going to hurt had they not had training injuries. You know, that's one of the things that cracks me up. When I was back in my 30s training the way that I do, I had all these people tell me, well, if you keep lifting heavy like that, you're going to be broken once you get to over 40. Okay? The only injuries I've gotten from training have been from high reps. Well, that to sink in. Yes, I've gone through some shoulder injuries this year. None of them were from doing anything heavy. They were all high reps, and it was chin-ups and pull-ups. Okay? I'm not getting hurt doing singles. I'm not getting hurt maxing out. But the thing that makes me laugh is that people are going to hurt if they don't train. So if you're standing around worried about aches and pains from training, and I'm not saying that you should train stupidly, you shouldn't. You should try to train intelligently and with thoughts towards longevity. Okay, with thoughts towards longevity. And I could actually say there's certain rep ranges you should probably avoid. If you care about longevity. I'm going to say you need to be very careful of about the 3 to 8 rep range, if anything. You don't need to be afraid of going truly heavy. You'd be afraid of that moderate weight, in my opinion. If you want to avoid injuries in the long term, you need to be going really heavy or really fast, or be doing volume, or the way I program for most of my lifters, all three. I only do 2 out of those 3. Program most of my lifters all 3. I would avoid that middle ground completely. It's where the injuries often accumulate. But you're going to hurt if you don't train. And yeah, I'm sure these people really do feel that way, but it's because they've lived 30 really hard years. They haven't taken care of themselves. And yeah, I see it. I see it all the time. The people who are 30, early 30s already complaining about this stuff. It's like, well, if you're already hurting like this at 31 and you're creaking and crackling, because my body doesn't creak and crackle for the most part. I don't get that. But I train my tendons and joints. All right? If you're feeling like that at 31, you're about to have a real bad life. That should be a wake-up call to get everything in order. Get your crap together. You shouldn't be feeling that way. Look at how I train in my 40s, guys. And I'm planning on getting stronger. People forget that. They'll say, oh, you look terrible, or they'll make all this nonsense. They forget that, number one, I got loose skin from losing 100 pounds of body fat in my early 30s. Come back to these people in their 30s. And they forget that I'm well up into my 40s. I'm not 32, guys. You know, there's going to be some wear and tear on my body. Not everybody be looking like Mike O'Hearn at age 50. In fact, nobody does. Except Mike O'Hearn. But the point here, no, you shouldn't be feeling that way. If you're feeling that way at that young of an age, you have really, really done some damage to your body. And it should be a wake-up call for people. All right, next question. What's your opinion on wide grip Pendlay rows for bringing up the upper back and traps for BJJ? Oh, that's a good question. And the reason I say that's a good question is, as far as my client base goes, I have more fighters than I do power lifters. A lot of people, again, get this idea that, well, people have all sorts of ideas about my coaching, but you guys have seen plenty of evidence that I have plenty of real strong lifters. I've proven it pretty effectively at this point. So let's set those ideas aside. A lot of people think I'm a powerlifting coach. I do have some power lifters. I have more fighters than I have power lifters, at least as of the last year for sure, absolutely. I've just attracted more of those people. And I think it's probably because of the style of coaching and training I do. It jives really well with them because we're combining maximum strength with maximum power, conditioning, work capacity, all those things. Well, those are things that martial artists alike. That's useful to a martial artist. That whole combination of attributes in pretty much any contact sport. So I think it's perfectly fine. It's a good lift. I tend to not necessarily use just the wide grip Pendlay Rows just for the upper back. And it's funny you mentioned that the first BJJ guy I had, we actually did do tons and tons of those wide grip to the upper chest, right? We did a ton of those. But as I've gone along, I've realized we have other tools available to do these things. We have multiple tools. And it's a good tool for that, but I like to use the wider grip to break up overuse. Right? If I have a lifter who I'm worried about some overuse on the Pendlay row, because I've been running them a long time, I'll rotate them in just to break it up, especially my real advanced guys. Okay? Because it lets them go to a lighter weight, which, I mean, Pendlay rows are already going to be reasonably light. It lets them get a different movement pattern in so we can avoid overuse. If I have someone who has a real serious upper back weakness and it becomes a big priority, let's come over and think about that for a moment. You guys have watched me show at least one lifter doing snatch grip high pulls. Okay. Well, for a martial artist who needs more upper back, that would be a better choice for specializing for a couple of reasons. Okay, because oftentimes we're looking to kill more than kill two birds with one stone, right? We have a primary purpose of a lift, but then we say, well, can I get more out of it? I have to pick between two lifts. Is this other lift going to bring something else to the table? Well, snatch grip high pulls help with explosiveness. Okay? They help with explosiveness because you use a little leg drive and use a little hips. Is any martial artist out there ever not wanted to have a little more power? Right? No. That's their hallmark. Now, granted, BJJ is not quite the same as other martial arts. There's more grappling. A lot more floor work by comparison to most martial arts. But power still matters. Snatch grip high pulls work great for this purpose. They're good power exercise that can hypertrophy the entire upper back and shoulder girdle. And we could argue that if you had to pick between these two for really specializing in that area, they're going to be slightly better. And I'm not saying a snatch grip or wide grip Pendlay row isn't good here. I mean, even a Pendlay row in general still helps the whole upper back. Hell, it builds the entire back. Snatch grip will specialize a little more towards the upper. But a snatch grip high pull too. I'd go so far as to say that, they both have a role here. They are both useful for this type of athlete for this specific role. Never give yourself only one tool. That's the one thing that we always need to remember when we're talking about training tools. We don't ever say, well, I have one tool. Now, we might have a tool that's extremely versatile, like the Good Morning, that we can use for 5 different applications, right? But we're using variations of that tool. Those are all different tools. We don't ever say, hey, I have this one tool in my toolbox. No, we look at it and we want to have multiple tools available, particularly when dealing with training, because of, again, concerns for overuse, well-rounded development. I know I rambled on a bit on this one, but I wanted to make the point there that we need to have these couple of different tools. So if you were come to me and say, well, what's best here? Well, there is no best. I think they're both great tools. You can use both of them for this purpose. You can use them interchangeably back and forth, depending on specifically what you need to do right now, or through different phases, or you could use them at the same time. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.